Bauhaus was one of the most definitive design movements of the modern age, reaching its peak between the two world wars. The word Bauhaus, loosely translated from German, means house of construction or school of building. Bauhaus was a new type of art school. Historically, European art academies taught each design subject separately. The Bauhaus offered foundation training in many art and design disciplines. They believed in variety. Understanding mass production was part of the curriculum, and the school sought to develop students who could unify art with craft while embracing new technology. It was also the beginning of the art school as an alternative way of life. Germany at that time was a pretty conservative place, and before the Nazis said "Nein" to the Bauhaus, it was arguably the most celebrated art school in the world. Bauhaus thinkers believed the world needed to be fundamentally rethought. Unnecessary ornamentation was out. Minimalism was in. Good design required simplicity and geometric purity. One of the best known icons of Bauhaus design is the cantilevered chair. Designed by someone named Breuer, it was inspired by the steel tubes of his bicycle, and ultimately led to the first lightweight, mass-produced metal chair. Despite his success, Breuer concluded that eventually chairs would become obsolete, and everyone would soon be sitting on supportive columns of air. Bauhaus was all about innovation and inspiration. Nowadays, Bauhaus influences can be seen everywhere, from road signs and graphic design to big windows and even bigger buildings. In architecture, the international style, as it became known, influenced skylines the world over. Bauhaus was about ideas, reform, exploration and vitality, about making more tidy sense of the rapidly evolving world around us, and giving us more cool stuff for our apartments.
Here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this aeroplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change. Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Casting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Insurance executives say Obamacare is working out just fine. They like it, and it is not a government takeover of the health insurance business. Oops. Guess Republicans are going to find something else to run on? Like maybe Benghazi. Good morning, everybody. Thursday, May 8th. How about it? The Bill Press Show. Here we are in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., keeping our eye on what's going on here as well as all around the country and around the globe. Telling you all about it, and you tell us what it means to you. That's our conversation we have every morning here. For the next 3 hours, we'll be here with the issues of the day and with your calls and your comments. Let us hear from you at 866-55-PRESS. Let us hear from you on Twitter at BP Show. Let us hear from you on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here on your local progressive talk radio station. Here also on Free Speech TV. Good to see you this morning. And worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. And here in the radio TV factory this morning, he's back. Peter Ogburn.
Hello.
Yes, all your fans have missed you. Both of them.
Thanks, Mom.
We heard from both. Yeah, here they are coming in. Nice to have you. Have a good time in New Orleans?
Yes, a wonderful time.
Good.
My favorite city in America. I love New Orleans, man. I
do
can't
too.
get back there enough.
Too. I like it. I wouldn't call it my favorite city, but I do like it a lot.
I'm going on record. My favorite city in America. I can't get enough.
And food-wise?
Oh, forget it.
Yeah, I know. It's really good. I was just trying to think of that great place that I went. You sent me there last time. Right on a little corner there. Not downtown. Not in that.
Herb Saint? Did you go to
Herb Saint?
Herb Saint.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Donald Lake, this show. He's been on this show.
Yeah.
Great restaurant.
Great restaurant.
We went to another one of his restaurants.
And the Acme Oyster Bar.
I
sent
you a picture of my oysters?
You sent me a picture.
We actually did a whole segment on the show yesterday about that picture.
Is that right?
No, but I did show it around. And I have to tell you, Elise Murphy did a great job while you were gone.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Very capable hand.
I've learned from the best.
Oh. She kept the ship afloat.
Good.
And and Alicia Cruz, same thing on the phones, keeping us going. There she is, right? And Cyprian Balding. In and out.
Little pitchy. Little pitchy, dog.
He was there, keeping us looking good on our videographer. Just between us and the Nats, right? Yeah, right. It's over at the, thought I heard the door opening. I was going to watch that. I was there at the Nats game yesterday. I pulled them through 3-2 over the Dodgers. It's a good game.
A little worried there.
Yeah, it was
a little
close.
worried.
It was a little tense, man. I'll tell you because with that 1-run advantage.
Yeah.
That's too tight, and the Dodgers are a damn good team.
Yeah, they are.
Nats play very good defensively, and it was a lot of fun being around there. I don't know whether you've heard, Peter, while you were gone. Rob Ford has checked himself into rehab.
I saw that.
Well, he sort of checked himself in, and then he checked. then he got lost. People couldn't find him because apparently he didn't get off the plane. He was supposed to get off. It was kind of confusing, but Jimmy Fallon caught up with him last night.
Here's an update on our pal, Toronto Mayor Rob Ford. In a new interview, Ford said that he's enjoying rehab because it reminds him of the football camp he went to as a kid. Oh. Then the counselor said, actually, this is a football camp. You wandered here last night at 3 a.m. Please leave. Not rehab. Rob Ford says he likes rehab because it reminds him of the football camp he went to as a kid, and then his parents were like, that was also rehab. We didn't...
That guy's whole life is rehab, I think. Man, we got a lot going on today. We'll be joined here by Zoe Carpenter in the first hour from the Nation magazine. Jeremy Holden here in from Media Matters. Carl Frisch from Bullfight Strategies here as a friend of Bill. And really looking forward to talking to a man who became the first person in this country exonerated from death row because of DNA testing. Now, there's a whole movement, of course, get rid of the death penalty because so many innocent people are on death row. One of them, who is out accused of a heinous crime, spent, I think, 9 years in prison. He'll tell us all about it. But he fought it, and finally, thanks to DNA testing, he was freed. He'll be here in studio to tell us his story. And we'll get to all of that. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news last night. Playoff basketball continued, and unfortunately for the home team here, the Washington Wizards fell to the Indiana Pacers. That puts that series tied up at 1 game apiece. Also in the late game, the Oklahoma City Thunder fighting back against the Clippers. They won 112-101. That series also tied at 1 game apiece. Tonight, of course, more playoff basketball. The Nets and the Heat at 7 o'clock Eastern, and the Trailblazers and your San Antonio Spurs at 9:30 Eastern time.
So, but the Wizards, it was a close game for the Wizards, right? They're not going to win every game. Let's face it. Right?
As much as I hate to say it, that's true. They had a real shot at winning it, and they just couldn't put it away last night. But they still look pretty good.
And the Pacers did
They pulled it. They
Come
pulled
alive.
it back. Yeah, they did. They did. Be careful next time you write an online review. You could get sued. That is what one man in Florida is finding out. He purchased an internet wireless router from Amazon, and he didn't like it, so he wrote a nasty review of it online. He then received a letter from a law firm threatening to sue him for, quote, an illegal campaign to damage, discredit, defame, and libel, end quote, the company that makes the router.
No.
They haven't moved forward yet, but they did say that this is part of a smear campaign and a way to sort of besmirch the good name of the company because he left a negative review on Amazon.
Boy, I saw another article this morning where, I mean, anything, you post something, like when I do my column online, for example, on the Hill, you get a lot of really personal, snarky comments, some just personal attacks, a lot of them. I mean, not just me, but a lot of people do. And it's more and more websites are now starting to shut down those because they're anonymous people. Yep. They come in under some phony name and they just go into a string of personal attacks and everything. So
a lot of big newspapers and websites, you're right, they've really started to monitor and moderate those.
Yeah. So not everything goes online, I guess, is the point of your story.
That's it. And you remember this debuted in the Super Bowl, Diet Coke's new slogan, "You're on." Diet Coke, you're on. Well, they have scrapped the "You're on" campaign because too many people were having some fun with "You're on Coke."
Oh, you're
on Coke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they took off at the Super Bowl.
You mean they didn't see that coming?
I guess they didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have gone online and have made fake billboards and parody ads, saying, Coke, you're on Coke. And so they've scrapped the whole
I have an idea.
campaign.
Maybe they could change it to "You're in." All right. I don't think that'll work either. All right.
You have a choice when it comes to what you want to drink. You're in. Diet Coke.
Now, here's an idea which we want to shoot down this morning. I can't believe this. I never heard of it before, but I saw an article on Drudge, actually, yesterday, that California is considering something that Washington State and Oregon, so we got the whole West Coast here. We're in trouble. My West Coast. The Oregon and Washington have already passed legislation to do a trial run on this. Now California wants to do it. There's a legislation introduced in the California State Senate to replace the gas tax. Okay, now listen carefully. All you guys driving out there right now on your way to work. Okay, to replace the gas tax with a tax per mile. And the reason is, first of all, the reason is because why we're doing this is because we've been so successful in getting people to drive less, but also particularly to drive more fuel-efficient cars. Now, what happens? You have a more fuel-efficient car, you are getting more miles per gallon, you are buying less gas, you are paying less in taxes. So the tax revenue, and all that gas tax money goes into the highway trust fund, right, state or federal, to keep states and roads and highways and freeways in good shape, right? To keep them in repair. Well, they're suffering now. That money has gone down, down, down. And so for the last 5 years in a row, the Congress has had to pump more money into the Highway Trust Fund because the gas tax isn't paying all the money that they need. And the same thing is happening in these states. So their answer is, right, to tax people per mile. And what they would do, as I understand it, they'd put a little computer in your car. The state would be able to monitor how far you drive, and you pick a number, right? You would get taxed. The bill in California does not have a number in it, but what they're thinking about in Oregon is a half a penny a mile. And so you would get a bill at the end of the month. So the price of gas would go way down, but you would get you would not be paying both the gas tax and the per mile thing. Would replace it, but you'd get a bill at the end of the month or maybe automatic billing, whatever, from the state. You drove boom, boom, boom. It'd be like electricity, right?
Yeah.
You use this many kilowatts.
Right.
You pay this. You drove this many miles. You pay this. Now, here's what I want. What do you think about this? Drivers of America, 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. I think in theory it sounds good. It sounds like it makes sense. But I see a lot of problems with it. First, where do you start? First of all, I think you realize then if you have a fuel-efficient car or a clunker and you are paying as much, right? You don't get any benefit now for being a fuel-efficient car, right? Unless I'm not getting it. If you got a Prius and you live 30 miles away and you got, I don't know, name it, right? That gets the worst mileage of all, right?
An SUV,
some big
gas
SUV
guzzler,
or some big gas guzzler, and you drive 30 miles into work. That's a 60-mile round trip. Both of you are getting charged.
Right.
60 miles times half a penny.
You're
right?
Speaking to me, by the way.
All right.
I used to drive an SUV.
And you live like in Kentucky, don't you?
That's it. I have a 250-mile one-way. No, I have a longish commute. And I used to have an SUV. It wasn't a big gas guzzler, but it was one of the smaller SUVs. But it did not get great gas mileage. And I bought a Prius. I bought a hybrid vehicle, not only because I wanted better gas mileage, but because, it's 2014. We've made advances, and it's better for the environment, and I believe in putting my money where my mouth is on that type of stuff. Now, I don't know that because, I'm a success story. Right, I'm what you want people to do. You want people to sort of be able to go and get that hybrid car or find a solution to your gas guzzling ways.
Yeah. And
so why would I get punished?
We were told we ought to do that. We were told we ought to, and that's just now so many people have. It's been so successful that now they realize, so now we got to zap them.
Right?
Yeah. No. So that's one reason.
Come on.
There's another reason. A lot of people are saying, "Hey, you put this computer on the car that can tell how many miles you've driven. That computer knows everywhere you are, every minute of every day with that car. There are some certain privacy issues here too, right?
Sure.
And they say, oh no, well the state, tell the NSA that, right? Oh no, the state would never track you. No, that information would all remain private. They would never use that, right? Oh yeah, the hell they wouldn't, right? That's another big issue. And then it seems to me, if they don't have enough money. Okay, that's a serious concern because you want the roads and highways to be always in good shape, right? To be safe to drive on, fix the potholes and all that kind of stuff, right? And signage and all of that. Well, there are other ways to get that money. How about all the big subsidies we give to the oil companies that the Congress refuses year after year after year to get rid of, right? Take that money instead of giving it to the oil companies whom we're subsidizing every time we pay that tax. Take that, don't get whatever that is, billions and billions of dollars every year. Put that into the Highway Trust Fund, right? Yeah. But I don't see penalizing drivers or particularly penalizing people who are driving fuel-efficient cars. And each of these pilot programs. So in Oregon, I know they're going to start in 2015. They're just working it out, trying to figure out exactly how they're going to do it. And also, who's going to pay for these little vehicles? What I saw, they were like $200 each, these little units that you have to put on the cars, right?
Good question.
Yeah. So you're going to have, new cars are going to be made with them, which means the price of a new car is going to be higher, but then existing cars will have to be retrofitted to them. So that's another consideration, right? Which you're going to have to throw in. There's a state going to put them in there, and then eventually they pay that unit off, or you as a driver are going to have to pay. I just see all kinds of problems. So Oregon has already, agreed to have an experiment starting in 2015. California is debating whether or not to start their own experiment in California. And what they would do it for like a year or so and test it out, probably in a few communities, and then if it works, go nationwide. But you know what? I think we have to kill this thing right now in the crib.
The more I hear you talk about it, the less I like it.
Yeah. When I saw it, I thought, what? This is insane. Let's test it out in the court of public opinion here this morning. The court of talk radio. Yes or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Would you rather pay, instead of paying gas tax, which, by the way, is about 60 cents a gallon by the time you add state and federal and everything. You can really get up there. Would you rather pay gas tax or per mile? Just half a penny per mile. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Wendy?
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're gonna do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory, and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
Taking a look at this idea that has popped up on the West Coast, and other states here on the East Coast are considering as well, because of the decline in gas tax revenues, replace the gas tax with a tax per mile. And by the way, the gas tax in California, I double-checked, is 52.9 cents a gallon. That's state and federal combined. That's a big chunk. In Oregon, it's about 29 or 30 cents per gallon. But they would get rid of that entirely, and you would pay half a penny per mile. I got to tell you, for me, this would be good for me. Because I use our car, Carl and I use our car maybe once a week, right?
Yeah.
We live in the city.
Sure.
We take Metro or we walk.
Yeah.
We use it to go to Costco. Yeah, maybe once a week, right? So I'd love it. But I think for most commuters, it's bad news. Peter, you have some comments there.
Yeah, remember, we are on Twitter at BP Show, on Twitter, taking your comments on this. Gene Starwin says, I see a problem. Exactly what data is really being collected here, something you brought up. And Holly says that this is something that can unite Democrats and Republicans. She says right-wing paranoids will freak out and never allow state computers in their cars. It's a bad idea anyway. I agree with you, Bill. Again, on Twitter at BP Show.
All right. We got lots and lots of calls on this, and just right up against the clock here at the half hour. So we ask you all there, Richard out in Manuka, Illinois, and Jody in Aurora, Colorado, and all the rest of you. I'll hold those calls. We'll take a quick break and then come back right after the half and go right to your calls on this tax per mile. This is the latest idea from some government scientists that we're trying to shoot down before it gets off the ground.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like, go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855. or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
After the hour, replacing the gas tax, getting rid of it. That sounds good so far, but replacing it with a tax per mile. You pay depending on how many miles you drive that car, which seems to me, no way around it, that people who drive and have gone out of the way to get a fuel efficient car are going to have to pay as much as people who drive an old gas guzzler.
Yeah,
Peter.
we've clearly struck a nerve on this issue. We're getting lots of comments on Twitter. At BP Show is where you can find us, at BP Show. Allison says, this is a horrible idea. Oil companies are making record profits. Deficits should be made up from their tax breaks and subsidies.
As I said.
As you mentioned. Jessica says, the West Coast could do what Florida is doing and just add more toll roads. Oh, joy.
Oh, yeah.
She says.
That's not the answer. I don't.
And Imzadi says, I think everyone should pay for mileage. If you use the road, pay for the repairs, regardless of if you have gas or electric fuel.
Well, by the way, under this program, you would.
Right.
I mean, if you have an electric car, you'd still be paying.
Paying.
Richard is out in Manuka, Illinois. Hello, Richard.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, thanks for holding. Go. What's your point?
Well, I guess the best thing to apply to this is reap what you sow. The government implemented very strict standards on what car manufacturers would have as an average mile per gallon across all their vehicles.
Lo
and lo and behold, it was actually successful.
I know.
And it seems like we're being punished, again, because of something that actually worked for a change.
I know, Richard. That's what I don't get about the CAFE standards, as you point out, have been very successful, and they're going to get better, right? The next ones. And then people like Peter went out and bought a Prius or some other fuel-efficient car, and, they should have thought it through, right? That was going to mean less gas tax revenue.
I was going to say, there's cars out there that are not hybrid. They're getting 60-plus miles per gallon, and they don't have the nickel pollution that some of your hybrid cars have.
Yep.
And those cars are still going to be taxed because now that they're driving 55, 60 miles one way to work, and beating the system, per se, they're finding a way around it to get to those people.
Yeah. That's why I don't like it, Richard. Absolutely. You're penalizing people for doing a good thing. right?
Gee, thanks.
Yeah. Hello. I mean, you know, like the tax on cigarettes, right? If you don't smoke, you don't have to pay the tax.
Right. Right. Exactly.
On this one, you may not be polluting, but you're going to still pay as much as the guy who is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jody is out in Aurora, Colorado. Hi, Jody. Good morning.
Good morning. I drive every morning listening to the Bill Press Show, and I just watched all these big, giant trucks that are on the road with me every morning, and I see on the back of their truck so often how much they pay in gas tax, you know. And I just think about those working class people who have to drive these big trucks, and they are going to be penalized because I haven't seen a Prius 18-wheeler yet.
Yeah.
And think about what's going to happen. I mean, it's another attack on the working class as far as I see.
Yeah, I mean, the companies will pay, but that probably means they're going to pay their drivers less, right? I mean, the drivers will definitely suffer from that.
Well, then you've got the independent truckers. You've got the blue-collar carpenters, plumbers, and all that who drive trucks. And
yeah, no, absolutely, sure, and need to because of the equipment, right? That they need for their job. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it, Jody. You're absolutely right. Good point. Good point. Thanks for the call. In Naperville, Illinois. Hey, Chris. Good morning. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Bill. Hope all is well.
I'm sorry?
Hello? Hey. Yeah, hope all is well.
Great. Great. Good to hear from you, Chris. Go ahead.
Okay. I personally agree with the tax because at the end of the day, the roads have to be paved.
Right.
And the point was already brought up that electric vehicles don't pay this tax at all. And to tell you the truth, they use the roads. And I personally own an electric vehicle. It happens to be a motorcycle. And I think at the end of the day, we have to pay our taxes.
Wait a minute. Wait, not so fast. You own you drive an electric motorcycle? I didn't know there were any.
Oh yeah, there are. They're made in the U.S. There's a company in Oregon called Brahma.
Whoa!
And I happen to.
No kidding.
It's not a Tesla, huh? But
no, it's not a Tesla. It's a Brahma. It's called an Impulse.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So you would be paying whether it's electric motorcycle or electric car. You would be paying as much in gas taxes as a guy who's a total polluter driving a big gas guzzler. Why is that fair, Chris?
So there's some things that can be done about that. You know, obviously this is a fresh idea. It needs to be tweaked. You could charge by weight because that actually creates more wear on the road if a heavier vehicle versus a lighter one.
Mm-hmm.
I also personally disagree with putting a chip in your vehicle. This could be taken care of by, say, something like an odometer check at registration or registration renewal.
Well, then you only pay the tax once every. Then you'd only have to pay the tax every once. Chris, I hear what you're saying, but I think if you tweak this all the way the ways it's got to be tweaked, then you just get rid of it.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot. There are way too many things you got to get through.
Way too many things wrong with this to fix it.
Yes.
That's my belief as well. But I'm still stunned by this electric motorcycle.
Never heard of that.
Did you know?
No, I had no idea. That's news to me, man.
I didn't get the name of that company. Maybe Chris, you can send us an email the name of that company. I'd like to look into that. That raises all kinds of questions. Where's the battery on that motorcycle?
You know what?
Right?
I'm still not going to ride a motorcycle. So
all right,
Bramo, I think is what he said it was called. Bramo motorcycle.
Check it out. Luis is in Chicago on the great WCPT. Hey, Luis. Boy, not a lot of commuters in Chicago, right? Whoa. Hi, Luis.
Doing well. You know, my point is in here, the White House just came out with a briefing and, about the emissions, and they put everybody together, and here's this briefing, and we're polluting the air. So it makes no sense. Now we're going backwards. So, I have a big gas guzzler truck, but it's sitting in the driveway, and now I'm driving a Toyota that, I take 80 miles a day, and now I'm going to be penalized for that.
Yeah.
Point. The third point is real quick, is that Big Brother, the states have subpoena power to subpoena wherever you were at if something was committed, or, you know, will they be able to go to court and say, hey, I need a subpoena?
Yes.
For this? And was that?
Yes, I think yes. I think the answer to that is yes. That is a real concern. That's a real privacy concern. I mean, any suspicion or whatever, be able to get the information. They will know on your car, everywhere your car has been, every minute of every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
That's scary.
Yeah, right. So this.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right. Yeah. This. I hate to use the overworked phrase, but this is one more example of Big Brother for sure. But that's a big concern of mine. To me, the bigger concern is that just the inequity of penalizing people who are doing the right thing by reducing their carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Which is what we've been encouraging people to do for years and years and years. And finally, isn't it great? So many people are doing it.
Right.
That the air is cleaner. We are not importing as much foreign oil. I mean, things are starting to work. We're starting to turn it around. And now they're going to come back and say, oh, you did such a good job.
Suckers.
Bam.
Suckers.
How do you like this? Yeah, we'll find a way to get that money out of you. No. Score me. Put me down on the no vote, as a no vote on the tax by mile. What else is going on? We'll check in with Zoe Carpenter from the net. But I love your comments on this on Twitter. Keep talking about it, and your emails. You know how to get there on Twitter at BP Show. Zoe Carpenter from The Nation joins us next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour. Big news out of the White House this week with the release of the third White House report on climate change, with some pretty scary stuff in it. That climate change is not something that's going to happen in the future. It is happening right now, and it is impacting every corner of the United States of America. Zoe Carpenter has been writing about this for The Nation magazine at thenation.com. Zoe joins us on our newsline this morning. Good morning, Zoe.
Good morning.
Yes. So what's going to, I mean, this is pretty stunning stuff, which looking at the impact of climate change in the United States, very much like the UN report a couple of weeks ago looked at the impact of climate change worldwide. But what's the action that's going to follow a report like this? Sorry, what do you see?
Well, in terms of what the White House is going to do, I'm not sure we're going to see too much new action. I think it's going to be more about using this report to support things that are already on the table, most notably the regulations for existing power plants to limit the amount of carbon they can emit. We may see, we may see a few more executive actions from the White House, but at this point, the next big step that needs to happen really has to come from Congress. And I think before that, obviously, it'll have to come from voters.
Well, on that point, at the briefing when they talked about the climate change report, Jay Carney was asked about the carbon tax, right, that the legislation, which everybody says is the way to go. And Carney said that it's dead, in fact. I mean, they recognize that there's no way they're going to get it out of Congress. Which struck me as strange that they put out the report, but at the same time they threw in the towel.
Well, the report is congressionally mandated, so they didn't really have an option on that. And I don't think they've thrown in the towel in the long term, but I think, we have to be realistic about who is running Congress right now. And in the House, it's a significant chunk of people who don't believe climate change is happening, not to mention what they think we should do about it. So I think the politics of climate have regressed since the 2010 election, which really brought in a lot of Tea Party Republicans who are completely disconnected from the scientific realities that we're facing.
Interesting front page story in the New York Times this morning, if you've seen it, about Florida, where, Rick Scott and to a certain extent Marco Rubio and other politicians, Republican politicians in Florida, are either denying that climate change exists or refusing to take any action, whereas there are already people in South Beach, right, who are every day experiencing the problems with rising sea levels with their homes and with their businesses. So, Florida is, already sinking, parts of Florida, and the politicians still refuse to do anything about it.
Right, and we see that in other areas, too. We see that in Oklahoma, which has been one of the states hardest hit by severe droughts and severe flooding in recent years. And we have Senator Jim Inhofe, who is still one of the most prominent climate deniers. And his state is currently on fire, and he still has dismissed the report.
So the question that I had at the briefing was, when John Podesta joined us to talk about this climate change report, and all the progress that they've made toward renewable sources of energy, how, in light of this report and in light of the push for renewable sources, could the president conceivably approve the Keystone Pipeline?
Well, I think that's a good question, and that question is actually broader. How can the president continue to tout an all-of-the-above energy strategy? I mean, that's the central irony, is that at the same time that he's doubling down on his concern about climate change, he's still promoting the fact that we're producing more oil in the U.S. than we ever have. And, that just doesn't make sense. His energy strategy is as if climate change weren't happening. So Keystone sort of fits in there. I think with all the delays, I think things are looking good for the opponents of Keystone, but still it's hard to speculate.
But we won't know anything for sure until after the midterms, right? Looks like it, at any rate. The Congress is voting this week on charter schools. What's the issue there? So I know you've been talking about that too.
Right. So there's a pretty modest bill that's going to come before the House today or tomorrow, probably, which is sort of a mixed bag depending on how you feel about charters. So it increases some financial support for them, makes federal funding available to expand schools, particularly in states that have been more restrictive of charters. It also includes some transparency measures. And I think the big issue for Democrats is these transparency measures. And there will probably be an opportunity to vote on a couple of amendments that would increase transparency even more. And so supporters of those amendments say, well, charters receive public funding. Why shouldn't they have the same accountability and transparency requirements that public schools do? And of course, the charters, which think of themselves as private entities, even though they receive public dollars, have been fighting these transparency measures. And so it'll be interesting to see where the Democrats come down on that, because we haven't really had, they haven't really faced that question of whether they're going to take a hard line on charters or not.
But if more money goes to charter schools, that's less money to public schools, isn't it?
In this case, they're just combining a couple of grants. So in this case, no, but it's true that the trends in recent years have been that lawmakers at both the state and the federal level have been very interested in increasing support for charters, while Title I funding, other public school supports have been cut back dramatically. So the playing field is being tipped, even if it's not happening through one single piece of legislation.
Yeah, boy, I'm troubled by that. I don't like that. I mean, public schools need all the help they can get, and I don't think taking money away from them and giving it to charter schools is the answer, but I'll have to look more into that. Didn't know this bill was coming up this week, so I thank you for telling us about it. Zoe Carpenter, always good to have you with us. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks so much.
The Nation, thenation.com, the liberal Bible. You got to subscribe. I have for many, many years.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Bauhaus was one of the most definitive design movements of the modern age, reaching its peak between the two world wars. The word Bauhaus, loosely translated from German, means house of construction or school of building. Bauhaus was a new type of art school. Historically, European art academies taught each design subject separately. The Bauhaus offered foundation training in many art and design disciplines. They believed in variety. Understanding mass production was part of the curriculum, and the school sought to develop students who could unify art with craft while embracing new technology. It was also the beginning of the art school as an alternative way of life. Germany at that time was a pretty conservative place. And before the Nazis said "Nein" to the Bauhaus, it was arguably the most celebrated art school in the world. Bauhaus thinkers believed the world needed to be fundamentally rethought. Unnecessary ornamentation was out. Minimalism was in. Good design required simplicity and geometric purity. One of the best known icons of Bauhaus design is the cantilevered chair. Designed by someone named Breuer, it was inspired by the steel tubes of his bicycle, and ultimately led to the first lightweight, mass-produced metal chair. Despite his success, Breuer concluded that eventually chairs would become obsolete, and everyone would soon be sitting on supportive columns of air. Bauhaus was all about innovation and inspiration. Nowadays, Bauhaus influences can be seen everywhere, from road signs and graphic design to big windows and even bigger buildings. In architecture, the international style, as it became known, influenced skylines the world over. Bauhaus was about ideas, reform, exploration and vitality, about making more tidy sense of the rapidly evolving world around us, and giving us more cool stuff for our apartments.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, we are going to talk Media Matters at the top of the next hour and a little Benghazi. And then again, Kirk Bloodsworth freed from death row because he did not commit the crime that he was sent to death row for in the next hour. Peter?
Bill, Senator Al Franken is becoming hero to the internet. Not only is he fighting the Comcast-Time Warner cable merger, he is now emerging as the leader of a campaign to stop the FCC from creating fast lanes with net neutrality. He's fighting to keep that alive, so good for him.
Yeah.
Somebody has to take charge on that.
I was talking about that the other day. He's the only person I think who's out there standing up to this deal.
And he's been in front of that for a long time.
I know he has. He knows. And but this is something that's important to everybody who uses the internet in this country. And thank God we got Al Franken fighting for us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
And, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune into Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Insurance company executives say Obamacare is working, they're making money, and it is not a government takeover. Now what do Republicans do? Hey, good morning, everybody. I know. Maybe they'll talk about Benghazi instead. Great to see you this morning. It's Thursday, May 8th. This is the Bill Press Show, and we are there with you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide. We are there with you on Free Speech TV nationwide. We are there with you worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. great to see you. Thank you for being part of the program this morning. And you know that you can really be part of the program if you just jump in with your comments, as so many of you have already this morning. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. That's one way to join the conversation. Another way is your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. And those comments will not get lost today because Peter Ogburn is back from vacation.
I'm here.
And he is here monitoring your every thought on Twitter and Free Speech TV.
I am the thought police.
That's it. He's our own version of the NSA.
That's it.
But he won't know what you're thinking, unlike the NSA, unless you send us a comment on Twitter or on Facebook. Welcome back, Peter.
Thank you very much, sir.
We missed you. Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could say I missed you. Yeah. Quite a wonderful time.
Okay, indeed. Elisa Murphy here as well. Thank you again, Elisa, for
my pleasure.
Doing
Good
double
morning.
duty for the last week. Alicia Cruz, she's got the phones covered, and Cyprian Bolding on the video cam, as always, doing a great job for keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. And we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to the media. Nobody better to do it than Jeremy Holden, our good friend from Media Matters, Director of Research for Media Matters for America. Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Bill.
Welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Everything good?
Well, we're talking about Benghazi, so it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, that's true.
Finally, the media is going to talk about Benghazi.
Yeah,
I'm glad we're going to get
yeah.
to the bottom of this today.
I've been waiting for a year and a half, right?
You and
for
Fox News, right?
For somebody,
That's
somebody to raise the issue of Benghazi. But
after a dozen hearings, we can finally start out asking the questions.
Yeah, that's right. 13, actually. Yeah. Well, speaking about a question that never goes away, President Obama was in Los Angeles yesterday. He's there still, spent the night there. And he was honored at the Shoah Foundation dinner last night. Conan O'Brien was the MC, actually, at the dinner, who pointed out, here's President Obama saw us answer this question.
Bruce Springsteen, President Obama. It's fascinating. One guy was born in the USA. The other is constantly asked to prove he was born in the USA.
Bruce Springsteen out of that dinner last night. What if he performed there?
Yeah, I think he did.
Did he? Yeah, big event out in Los Angeles.
I just saw Bruce Springsteen, by the way, Jazz Fest in New Orleans.
All right.
First time I saw Bruce. Now I understand why people are so fanatical about him.
He's awesome
really
live.
A wild show.
I've heard that his shows are
it's amazing.
Really great. Yeah.
It's amazing. You don't even have to be a big Springsteen. You don't have to know all of his music. It's just the energy is amazing.
And President Obama still has fun with this issue at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, of course. He said how gratified everybody was that we had an American who finally won the Boston Marathon, because we've had a Kenyan who has been president of the United States for the last 6 years. So it sort of even things out.
Yeah, a little balance in the universe.
A little balance back, okay. Jeremy's here for the first half hour. At the half, we're going to be joined by Kirk Bloodsworth. Look forward to talking to him. He's the first man in this country who was freed from death row because DNA proved that he did not commit the crime that sent him to death row. He's part of a group called Witness for Innocence that's having a big impact around the country on other people wrongly sent to death row. And then in the next hour, Karl Frisch will be here, formerly with Media Matters. He'll be here now with Bullfight Strategies as a friend of Bill. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. In London, police are getting a new tool to help fight crime: body cameras.
Whoa.
They're going to be distributing 500 cameras to put on the officers to wear on their shoulders so that it will be able to capture moments as they happen, as they're working throughout the job. Part of this is to assess a crime scene immediately when they show up. They'll be able to take a photo of it or take the video of it and see exactly what it looks like before anybody gets in and gets footprints on everything. It'll also be able to help capture what happens in the line of duty.
But you know what's strange about that? There are more cameras already in London, I think, than in any other city. Yeah,
that's right.
We're known for that. Cameras all over the place.
Yeah, that's a good point. Congratulations to Richard Sherman of the Seattle Seahawks. He has signed a new deal that makes him the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. 4 years, $57.4 million with $40 million in guaranteed money.
Whoa. Wow.
Made that official yesterday. He's staying in Seattle. That's what happens when you win a Super Bowl. They throw crazy money at you.
I'll tell you one thing. That'll keep you in Seattle.
Damn right. Yeah, exactly. And while we're on the sports desk, the new biography of Michael Jordan hits the bookshelves, called Michael Jordan, The Life, authored by Roland Lazenby. Sat down and got some interviews with Jordan, and one of the things that we hadn't really heard about is Jordan, when he was growing up in rural North Carolina, saw a lot of Ku Klux Klan activity, and said that one of the things that he learned at a young age was that he was a very racist man against all white people, because that was the exposure he had to white culture, was that rural North Carolina was the Ku Klux Klan. He says he evolved and he learned that it wasn't all white people who were racist, but that is one of the things that pushed him to be good at sports.
It's like Michelle Obama and the Whitey tape.
That's right.
No.
That's right.
I'll tell you one thing. You live in a town where the KKK is active.
Oh,
right?
I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm glad he discovered we're not all members of the KKK. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. So, we were joking about the Benghazi coverage, Jeremy, but, I mean, this is Fox News. This has now become their bread and butter, right? I mean, when you look, as you do, I know, I've been to Media Matters so many times, you have all these people there, all they do is watch the news and listen to the talk radio, so we don't have to listen to this conservative side. But when you compare the coverage of Benghazi on MS, CBS, whatever, ABC, all the other networks, and Fox News, I mean, Fox leads the pack, right?
Well, they do, and they've been
by far,
and they've been taking a victory lap in the past week. As we saw Jonathan Karl, ABC News White House correspondent, really badgering Jay Carney over this issue of Benghazi. And Jonathan Karl was getting a lot wrong in his questioning of Jay Carney. But none of that really mattered, because Fox was able to congratulate itself for once again forcing some of the rest of the media to cover a Fox News story. And, I think it really raises serious questions of whether the media should allow Fox News to be its assignment editor. Again, 60 Minutes is still dealing with the fallout of Lara Logan, dragging them into the Benghazi business. And so, yeah, you see Fox way out front, really kind of begging the media to follow this, and the media continuing to get burned when they try to follow Fox's lead.
For 3 days in a row, because I go to these briefings every day, 3 days in a row, almost every single question was on Benghazi. In fact, I have to tell you a funny little story. This horrific story out of Nigeria, with these over 200 girls, almost 300, who were kidnapped by this terrorist group. And the president of Nigeria, his name is Good Luck Jonathan. I mean, believe it or not, that's his name. So I was sort of half listening to Jay Carney talk, and I heard him say, "Good luck, Jonathan." I thought he was talking to Jonathan Karl in the front row, that starting another series of questions on Benghazi. I thought Jay Carney was
Good luck, Jonathan.
But the point is, for 3 days, dominated by Benghazi. So I just want to emphasize the point you make is it's not just Fox News. The other media follow Fox's lead.
Yeah. Yeah, and Michael Hirsch over
down
Politico,
a rabbit hole.
That's right. And Michael Hirsch over Politico calls it the Benghazi industrial complex. and that we really saw that play out with this recent flare-up, right? Judicial Watch releases emails on Tuesday. Fox spends all day.
Of which there's one.
There's one that's right. Being distorted. And again, this isn't about how to prevent future attacks. This is about who edited a memo days afterward. We're still talking about, track changes in a Word document several days after the attack. It's absurd. And again, you see Fox News leading the charge. Benghazi is something like a squirrel. Anytime Fox needs to distract attention, they can just shout out Benghazi. And I think, again, the disappointing part is when the rest of the media follows their lead. And
this email that Lindsey Graham calls a smoking gun, an email written by Ben Rhodes, National Security then advisor at the White House, to White House staff, starting with Dag Vega, who handles media appearances by members of the administration, giving the basically talking points, right?
Yeah.
For Susan Rice, who was going to be on all the Sunday talk shows. Talking points, I mean, it's not such a big deal to get talking points, right? I mean, it's not so unusual to get talking points.
And it's not unusual to edit talking points, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the whole point is we want, and this was rooted in what intelligence analysts were saying was the best available information at the time. 20 months later, we're having our 14th investigation now into who edited the talking points. It doesn't make any sense, and yet you see White House correspondents for major networks chasing that squirrel.
Now, let me tell you then what happened. Tuesday, so Thursday, Friday, Monday, 100% Benghazi. Tuesday, the entire briefing, not one question on Benghazi. What happened? I think the media ran out of gas. I mean, I think they finally realized there's no there, right?
And that's something that we've known for months, for more than a year, that there's no there. All the questions have been asked and answered up and down the line. Who issued the stand-down order? The military says there was no stand-down order, right? I mean, up and down the line, every question. Now the Special Select Committee is going to ask the same questions. Like Trey Gowdy is doing the rounds. He's going to lead, the Republican from South Carolina. He's going to lead the Select Committee, asking the same questions that we already have answers to. And in the meantime, what do you see? Republican election committees are fundraising on Benghazi. Key media figures, Mike Huckabee, John Bolton, who are Fox figures who runs PACs on the side, fundraising on Benghazi. It's big business.
Right. And I love it because we have there, Elisa, the first from John Boehner yesterday, right? Where the second, where he says he talks about this committee hearing, this committee investigation, the special committee. Is not going to be a circus, he says.
There's not going to be a sideshow. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be a circus. This is a serious investigation. Listen, our system of government depends on transparency and accountability.
So he also said this is going to be above politics. But as you point out yesterday, the National Republican Congressional Committee puts out an email to its supporters saying, become a Benghazi watchdog.
That's right.
How do you become a Benghazi watchdog? By sending money to the NRCC.
Yeah. And Trey Gowdy is out there saying, I won't fundraise on Benghazi. Well, we know, thanks to some reporting over at Think Progress, that he's been using Benghazi at fundraising pitches in the past. And so this is all about fundraising. This is all about electoral politics. Whose name do we constantly hear anytime Benghazi comes up? Hillary Clinton. 2016. This is about Republicans creating something that they can use as a political issue. This isn't about any substantive questions. They've all been asked and answered, not just by a dozen and more political investigations, but by nonpartisan investigations into what went wrong and how do we prevent it from happening again.
I thought that Republicans were going to run on Obamacare this year.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting turn of events, right? We learned that 8 million people sign up on the exchanges, surpassing the estimates of how this program might work. Insurance executives come out and say premiums are getting paid. The system is working. It's starting to look like the Affordable Care Act is a success.
Yeah.
So what do we start doing the very next day? Is we hear people shouting about Benghazi.
You mentioned, I know the hearing. Republicans called these insurance executives in, and they're sorry they did, because all the insurance executives, all they had to say was praising Obamacare, basically. So wonder they did. All right, this hearing's over. Yeah, we don't need to hear from the rest of you guys. Lara Logan, you mentioned at CBS. It's not just Fox that went overboard on this. CBS did on 60 Minutes, and Media Matters is all over. Jeremy Holden will tell us about when we come back here. Your questions, your comments, always welcome, as you know, at 866-55-PRESS.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, we're talking Media Matters with the research director of Media Matters, Jeremy Holden, in the studio with us. And Media Matters has been raising a lot of hell about Lara Logan and reports she did on Benghazi on 60 Minutes, right? What's the story there?
Well, there was a report earlier this week about Lara Logan's future at 60 Minutes. She's been on leave since this story kind of blew up in 60 Minutes' face. They had to retract the story, and now it looks like they've had it removed from Nexus.
What did they say that they had to retract?
So they relied on a witness who had told conflicting stories. They knew that they should have known that he had told conflicting stories. They didn't vet it, and it turns out his story didn't hold up. And it was the center. That was it. That was all they had, was this one witness. So they had to retract the story. Lara Logan, her producer, have been on administrative leave all year, and there's no indication as to when they might be returning. I think one of the new developments that we learned is how closely Lara Logan was collaborating with Lindsey Graham in shaping the story that CBS has retracted. No mention on air that she'd been talking to Lindsey Graham, who has been one of the loudest voices pushing these myths and lies about Benghazi. Right. So you see that level of close collaboration. The story blew up in its face. You know, we think 60 Minutes did this inside job review to try and sweep this under the rug, and we think some of the new revelations here, not just the Lindsey Graham one, but some discrepancies between what 60 Minutes said went wrong and what New York Magazine is now reporting about that Benghazi report, suggests that 60 Minutes needs to reopen this investigation.
Well, I mean, 60 Minutes can't, I mean, they've got a reputation they have to defend here, right? I mean,
they do. That's right. And we talked to some media experts and some reporters who say that what we know now, based on this new reporting, strongly suggests that 60 Minutes hasn't effectively answered the questions about what went wrong. Again, they had to retract the story. It didn't hold up, and there are still open questions that need to be answered before 60 Minutes gets its credibility back.
Didn't they suspend Andy Rooney once for some comments he made or something he got wrong?
Well, and look, and this question of like when Lara Logan returns is complicated, right? And because if 60 Minutes decides to put her back on the air before they answer these questions, you know, what does that say?
No, I think maybe Lara Logan had better realize her future may not be with 60 Minutes.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, it remains to be seen, but certainly questions remain.
Hey, Jeremy, thanks for all your good work at Media Matters, and thanks for coming in this morning. All right, great to see you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely. And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 33 minutes after the hour now. It's Thursday morning, May 8th. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital. And we're brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America, the good men and women of the Laborers Union under President Terry O'Sullivan, building a better America. That's their website. LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, LIUNAbuildsamerica.org. Check it out. The nation shocked last week with news out of Oklahoma, where Governor Mary Fallin had scheduled a new first. She wanted to kind of make history by having a double execution, 2 death penalty events in one night, back-to-back, 2 hours apart. They botched the first one so badly they had to postpone the second one. It has raised all kinds of questions, again, about the death penalty, whether or not there's any way we could do it humanely, and what about the finality of the death penalty, that if you make a mistake, it's too late and impossible to correct it. Witness to Innocence is an organization that has been raising that issue for some time, and Kirk Bloodsworth is a volunteer and a member of Witness to Innocence. Joining us in studio this morning. Hey, Kirk, good to see you.
Bill, it's a pleasure to be here.
You have a particular story to tell on this, and a powerful testimony on the death penalty, because you were on death row and you became the first person in this country exonerated from death row because DNA proved you did not commit the crime that sent you there.
That's right. In 1984.
What the hell? Man, I got to tell you. Tell us a little bit about it.
I have to say, Bill, it's I felt the same way. You know,
Yeah.
I gasped and screamed and hollered and stomped my feet. And in 1984, I was honorably discharged Marine. No criminal record, no criminal history. The next thing I know, I was fighting for my life. And it took basically 8 months from the time I was arrested till I was sent to death row in the state of Maryland. It was all based on...
You went to trial.
Yep, I went to trial. This whole thing started based on witness identification. A 9-year-old little girl by the name of Dawn Hamilton was found brutally murdered and raped in a wooded area.
Horrible crime.
Horrible. It's one of the Maryland's worst that ever occurred. And so... the description of the person last seen with her is as follows: 6'5", curly blonde hair, bushy mustache, tan skin, and skinny. Well, that don't fit me no matter what you do. I'm about 6 foot tall. I weighed about 225 pounds when this whole thing started.
Hardly thin.
But my hair was as red as a fire plug. I had sideburns down to here, looked like stripes on the flag. It was just, a missing tooth in the front, and I don't tan. So
right. Red as tan.
Just fair skinned fella, and
But so if this was a neighbor or?
Well, it all started by a next door neighbor seeing a composite sketch. I was living in Baltimore at the time. I was only there for less than 30 days. And I moved there. I was newly married and moved there with my wife and her family. And next thing I know, my wife and I weren't getting along, and I left and moved back to the Eastern Shore where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Police were knocking on my door about 2:45 in the morning. I mean, beating on it. Open up. It's the Baltimore County Police Department. We have a warrant for your arrest, and the rest is unbelievable history. I wound up going to one of the most notorious prisons in the United States for something I didn't do. I told everybody, Bill, from the day I was arrested to the moment I was released, I was an innocent man. I used to sign my correspondence that way, and nobody would listen to me. And when the DNA came across, though, they had to.
Well, you had an attorney, right, representing you?
Yes. Well, can I tell you about him real quick? The first one I had. Well, I want you guys and your viewers to picture a prison visiting room with a glass partition. Okay, my lawyer comes in off the street through an archway that's 10 foot high, 8 foot wide. He sits down with his back to a brick wall, just about like you're sitting there. And we have to talk through the glass on the phone, and the first thing out of his mouth, he says, "Kirk, you're in a lot of trouble." I thought that was very astute of him right off the bat.
Right, you're on death row.
And then he says, "Well,
you
don't you worry."
For that? I mean, come on.
Where's your degree at for that one? And then he says, "I know my way around the courtroom and know my way around the criminal justice system. We're going to find our way out of here together." We talked about the case for about 20 minutes. He made me feel a little better anyway. And then right before he gets ready to leave, he reiterated that same statement he made. I know my way around the courtroom. I know my way around the criminal justice system. We're going to find our way out of here together. He put his hand on the glass to say goodbye, picked up his briefcase, turned around, and ran right in the wall. That's a true story, too.
No.
It wasn't real funny back then, but I have to tell you.
Yeah,
it's a knee slapper now, but
then you knew you were in a lot of trouble.
He was right. I was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
and so it just took 2 weeks in his buffoonery, as far as I'm concerned. And we didn't have any money. My parents and I was a commercial fisherman, and I hadn't really, I had left that work.
So he was just assigned to you, is that right?
Yes, by the public defender's office in Maryland.
Did you have a trial?
To their extent, they weren't.
Trial by jury?
I did. I had 2 jury trials, actually. In my first case, I wound up going to the Maryland Penitentiary at 954 4th Street in Baltimore City, where a guard had been disemboweled 2 weeks before I got there back in 1985. And I was like, I'm an honorably discharged Marine. I'm a Marine, so I'm thinking to myself, well, I got this, right.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for what I was about to run into. And
how could they find you guilty of a crime based on just what was the evidence?
Well, circumstantial evidence. It was based on circumstantial evidence. The IDs of the there was 5 eyewitnesses positively identified me as the last person seen with Dawn Hamilton. Now, here's the problem. They arrested me on a Thursday, have a lineup on a coming Monday. They told all the witnesses not to watch television because we arrested a suspect. And by the way, his name is Kirk Bloodsworth. Then they have the lineup. The 2 main witnesses, which was 2 little boys, never identified me in the lineup until 2 weeks later. Their parents called, said, "It looks like our children made a mistake. It was really number 6." And that's the position I stood in. They still went on it. The children said that the hair was too red, my hair. Said he looked similar to the guy. And when I tell you the real killer, when we found the real killer after I had finally passed the DNA and did all that, how tall do you think the real killer was? Honestly.
Well, they said 6'5".
Right.
I'd say shorter than that.
A little bit. 5'6" and 160 pounds.
Whoa.
Witness identification is the worst piece of evidence in the criminal justice system when it comes to some of these cases. And his name was Ruffner. His last name was Ruffner. He was accused of killing Dawn, and then pled guilty to it after the DNA caught up with him. And the prosecutor finally, after 10 years after I was released in 1993, put the evidence in the CODIS database and caught him. And the real spooky thing right here is that this cat slept in the same prison with me, underneath me in a tier, for 5 years and never said a word.
Whoa. Oh man, I just got the chills.
Yeah. I did.
Wow.
Whoa, you served 9 years, right?
8 years, 10 months, and 19 days.
Not that you were counting.
No.
When you hear about the stories of the lawyers that don't know what they're doing, and you hear about the circumstantial evidence that sends someone to die on circumstantial evidence, how widespread is that problem?
Oh my God! Well, we've got 144 people now that have been exonerated from death row in the United States, and only 18 of those are DNA exonerations. There's been a report out by Sam Grossman.
Only 18.
Really? Well, that goes to show you that DNA is not a panacea. It doesn't necessarily help everybody. But Sam Grossman, a professor, I think he's out in Michigan, and he wrote a report that 4% of people probably on death row are innocent. 4%. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I wouldn't be executing people. And first of all, you don't know how to do it. I would never give the government permission to execute anybody that can't figure out how to remove snow. I'm just saying. But, it's we need to stop this thing. And that fella at Locke out in Oklahoma, he suffered a fate that shouldn't be suffered from anybody. I don't care what he done. And we have to start thinking about the worst of our people, because outside of every 25 of those now, you're executing an innocent person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We can't have that as some sort of collateral damage to the criminal justice system. If we do, we're idiots, and we need to stop.
What does your experience tell you about the death penalty? Is there any way?
It's no way. It's broken beyond repair. We've had its time. We've been doing it now for 50 years or so. The modern death penalty. I don't know how long since we were killing Christ, I guess. And we've tried it, and we've tried to fix it. We've tried to make it better. It's no good. It's racially disparate. It's economic disparity, social economic disparity, everything you want to think of. Too many mistakes have been made. And here we got a lady, the governor, fallen, and out in Oklahoma, 2 executions at one time, and pushed to get this thing done. Pushed to get it done. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Pushed to get it done. And then all of a sudden they botch it, and then she's trying to back up and say, well, whatever. But, get out of the killing business. Start helping the people. Put them away. If you wanted to have something, life without parole is a far greater thing. If you want to start putting at least that way, organizations like mine and different projects in the Innocence Project, like the Mid-Atlantic right here in D.C., can try to get these people out before you execute them.
Kirk Bloodsworth is our guest, the first person in this country exonerated from death row back in 1993, you said, right?
When I was exonerated, yeah.
And he is out there talking about his experience and in an effort with a group called Witness to Innocence. WitnessToInnocence.com is the website. What a powerful story. We'll continue with Kirk Bloodsworth, and I'm sure he'd be glad to hear from you and take your calls or your questions at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Witness to Innocence is the name of the organization. Innocent, but yet sent to death row for a crime he did not commit. Kirk Bloodsworth is in studio with us this morning. Kirk, thanks again for coming in. What a powerful story. But here's what gets me. So you, through this insane system we have, are sent to prison for a crime you did not commit. Why didn't you just give up at that point? And how, as a prisoner, it must have been really tough to get your story, to get people to listen to you, right?
Well, try to imagine, if you will, what if you're accused of something like that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me.
Right.
And you're accused of something like that, and then everybody, the whole state of Maryland, I was the most hated man in the country as far as I was concerned, and everybody hated me. So you have to try to stand up and fight and beat that back to the best degree you can, and that's exactly what I did. I didn't do it with necessarily beating everybody up or anything. I stood up for myself and told everybody I was innocent. I walked right out of population on my own.
In prison, what opportunities did you have? I mean, how do you get people to listen to you?
I was writing letters. I started a letter writing campaign. It only can be described as this. If I was running for some office or something, it was
campaigning.
I was writing 10 letters a day. I was just writing people I never even met before, and somebody finally listened. And it was a lawyer by the name of Gary Christopher from the Federal Appellate Division in the city of Baltimore, who read my letter and then gave it to a young lawyer by the name of Bob Morin, who is the Judge Bob Morin right now. He probably hate me to say that, but the Honorable Bob Morin here in the Superior Court in D.C. He was appointed by Clinton after as the lawyer goes, he knew his way around.
Oh yeah. Huh.
He knew.
He meant it.
He did. He knew exactly.
And he
what
knew
was going
about DNA, I guess, huh?
He did. We both talked about it, and here's the funny thing. I told him, I said, I want to take his test. He says, Kirk, you're either you're crazy or innocent. And I said, well, I'm low of the first one, but I'm all of the second one. So we sent it away, and it took a year because there was only 2 DNA labs in the United States back in 1993. Dr. Edward Blake, and there was one up in Boston, and I can't remember that fellow's name, and FBI had not yet come online. This was in 1992. This was before cell phones even invented.
Yeah.
So we took the test. It took a whole year to get done, but here was the problem. So I said, I want to do this test. He said, Kirk can't find the evidence. I said, well, let's go look for it and find out where it's at. And goes to the courthouse and can't find it. I wrote the prosecutor a letter. Ann Brooks, God bless her. She passed away not too long, a couple of years ago. And she wrote me back a letter. She said, Kirk, we regret to inform you, but the DNA has been inadvertently destroyed. I panicked for about 5 minutes, and they had already hid evidence on me about another suspect and different things. And so I was like, well, let's go back, Bob, and check it out one more time. So he goes back, can't find it. He was getting ready to leave, come back to the jail to tell me that that they had probably destroyed the evidence. And right before he leave, he had seen my court clerk in my second trial in the hallway. Asked him, said, Bob, what are you doing here? He said, I'm looking for the Dawn Hamilton evidence in the Kirk Bloodsworth case. And he said, well, I know where that's at. It wound up being in a cardboard box in a paper bag sitting in the judge's closet in the freezer.
Wow.
This is the criminal justice system.
That's terrifying.
They kill people based on information.
Your life should not be relegated to a treasure hunt.
Exactly.
No. Oh, my God.
So,
and it was that close. It was that close to
It was right there. I mean, suppose
Yeah.
a maid seen it or something and threw it in the trash.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd have been a dead man, or I'd have been, innocent in prison still.
So how did you feel when Maryland bans the death penalty?
Well, I had a little something to do with that.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And
I remember the senators mentioned my name like 64 times, and a good friend, Benita Spikes, is a murder victim fan. I remember Vicky Sheever and Jane Henderson, of who just dropped me off, by the way, out here, who was one of the main figures in this, and Suja Graham and others from Witness to Innocence who stuck it out, and we were really pushing to get it banned.
As you said, you helped kill what almost killed you.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
right.
I got to tell you, what a powerful story. Kirk Bloodsworth, you convinced me more than ever that I'm right to oppose the death penalty.
Should.
I know you did. All of our
Everybody
listeners
should.
do. And we've got to go on, leave it on that. But don't forget, the fight continues. We've got to ban this a horrible, horrible practice, which the United States continues. And go to witnesstoinnocence.com. Thank you, Kirk. I'm sorry, .org. Witnesstoinnocence.org. Okay,
.org.
I've got it wrong here.
Okay.
Thanks, Kirk. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome, Bill.
All right,
Thank you,
we'll
guys.
be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Bauhaus was one of the most definitive design movements of the modern age, reaching its peak between the two world wars. The word Bauhaus, loosely translated from German, means house of construction or school of building. Bauhaus was a new type of art school. Historically, European art academies taught each design subject separately. The Bauhaus offered foundation training in many art and design disciplines. They believed in variety. Understanding mass production was part of the curriculum, and the school sought to develop students who could unify art with craft while embracing new technology. It was also the beginning of the art school as an alternative way of life. Germany at that time was a pretty conservative place. And before the Nazis said, "Nein, To the Bauhaus, it was arguably the most celebrated art school in the world. Bauhaus thinkers believed the world needed to be fundamentally rethought. Unnecessary ornamentation was out. Minimalism was in. Good design required simplicity and geometric purity. One of the best known icons of Bauhaus design is the cantilevered chair. Designed by someone named Breuer, it was inspired by the steel tubes of his bicycle and ultimately led to the first lightweight, mass-produced metal chair. Despite his success, Breuer concluded that eventually chairs would become obsolete and everyone would soon be sitting on supportive columns of air. Bauhaus was all about innovation and inspiration. Nowadays, Bauhaus influences can be seen everywhere, from road signs and graphic design to big windows and even bigger buildings. In architecture, the international style, as it became known, influenced skylines the world over. Bauhaus was about ideas, reform, exploration and vitality, about making more tidy sense of the rapidly evolving world around us, and giving us more cool stuff for our apartments.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
President Obama on the West Coast today. He will wake up in Los Angeles and then jet down or helicopter down to San Diego for another fundraiser with the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. And then flying up to San Jose, another fundraiser tonight in San Jose. He'll spend the night there and a big speech on energy tomorrow. Carl Frisch coming up next.
Bill Press Show.
Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, they'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing to and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old. And I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Republicans call in insurance executives to dump on Obamacare, and they say, hey, it's working. We love it. Oops. Hey, good morning, everybody. Thursday morning, May 8th. Great to see you. Another big day here on the Bill Press Show, and with all of you around the country on your Progressive Talk radio station. Glad to see you. And around the globe on TawkrTV. Good to see you, too. Hello, Sweden. Here we are. Hello, Portugal. Right. Hello. I don't know.
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. You name it. We're there. On TawkrTV.
The gig, I had to do the Evita reference.
YouTube.com/TawkrTV. He's already made himself known. He is here with us this hour. Karl Frisch from Bullfight Strategies here is a friend of Bill. Hey, Karl, good to see you.
Good morning, Bill.
You all recovered from the White House Correspondents' Dinner weekend? I saw
barely.
you at, 99 parties or so.
I got 99 problems.
Yeah.
Parties. I am still tired, but good.
It was a good weekend.
Recovered, yeah.
Peter Ogburn is back from vacation today. Hello, Peter Ogburn with Elisa Murphy.
Hey, good morning.
Now back to being number 2 in charge, not number 1 in charge.
I'll enjoy it while I can.
Yes. Yeah. Alicia Cruz there on the phones and Cyprian Bolding on our video cam. Thank you all. But Peter, there were 16. Someone told me this. I didn't make all of them. 16 parties Friday night, the night before the dinner.
The only one worth going to, of course, was the Entertainment Tonight, the Hill Party. That was at the Canadian Embassy, where I met the most interesting men in the world from Dos Equis beer.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
My favorite was when the announcer, the person, welcoming everybody says, we have Dos Equis and also many interesting Canadian beers. And I was like, there.
I must say, that was a great party. The Canadian Embassy is on I've never been in there. Always wanted to go in there. It is a fantastically beautiful building and the most spectacular view of the Capitol.
Really?
Oh, my God.
Right there.
It's
God. Closer to the Capitol than the museum, which everybody thinks is like the best view of the Capitol.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this is absolutely. And I met the Canadian ambassador, but also...
I met a Mountie.
And the Mountie, they had a Mountie there, right? At the.
I kept on telling people that they'd be like, because it was hard to know if there were any celebrities there. Because what does a Canadian celebrity look like? I'm like, we know a few of them, right? So I just kept telling people that I was.
We know.
I kept telling people that I was on the cast of the original Degrassi. And some people bought it. Me and Drake.
Yeah. That's not bad.
But they also had you would have enjoyed this. They had Canadian specialty whiskey drinks.
Oh, nice.
Well, I'm not. When I say whiskey, I mean like bourbon, Scotch. I use the phrase whiskey wrongly.
Yeah, Canadians like the rye.
Yeah, they had Canadian bourbon maple milkshakes.
Yeah.
Oh,
whoa.
Dang. Yeah, I could get with that. How was that?
Let me just put it this way.
Did you have one or five?
No, I had one of they had 3 specialty drinks. I had a different one, and it was phenomenal. It really was good.
Everybody had a very polite hangover the next morning.
I was going to say, yeah. Everyone please and thank you all the way through the night.
No, so it was a big weekend, Peter. You missed it. Of course, you were in New Orleans. There are no parties in New Orleans. We know that. No, indeed, right. Well, I was at the Nats game yesterday. Nats beating the Dodgers 3-2. And fortunately, Matt Williams, the manager of the Dodgers, was there and in good shape, despite what happened when he was giving a phone interview driving to work yesterday morning, and he gets in an accident. Somebody rear ends him. So here he is. This is it, live radio.
So I think he's getting there. Oh, sorry, guys, I just had an accident.
Oh, boy. You okay?
I got a police officer behind me. This guy's going to try to escape.
Uh-oh. Really?
Got breaking news. Yeah. Play the sounder, Valdez.
Go follow him.
Guy's running.
All right, hold on. Did you witness the accident or you're in the accident?
He just ran right in the back of me.
Oh, you got rear-ended.
I just got rear-ended by a guy in a car. Hold on. This guy's crashing into people.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm good. There was a police car behind me, and a guy in a car, and he tried to get by me, and he just smoked me.
He just smoked me. Yeah, man. It sounds like the guy hit him and then tried
Sounds like the cops were following the guy and he was trying to get away.
Yeah.
It sounds like Matt Williams should not do radio interviews when he's driving his car.
And if you're going to be on the radio...
I wouldn't blame it on him.
I'm not blaming him, but you should... it's poor etiquette.
How do you know that you're not doing it? He's not doing it by, and a lot of shows will take an interview with somebody even when they tell them that they're going to be in their car.
As a producer,
always better on a landline.
Always better on a landline.
Because everybody has a landline now. I have a landline at home. Studio. The only time it gets used is for radio.
I'm a jerk. I'm the jerk that tells people we really need you on a landline. I don't have a landline at home.
Yeah.
I don't have a landline at home.
Well, and you guys are in the morning, so people, you can expect them to be maybe near a landline or, maybe at the office a little early. But imagine being an evening show where it's like, can you be on a landline at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah. Anyhow, we're glad Matt Williams is okay.
How did you handle the Dodgers versus the Nets? I mean, I'm always conflicted when I go. I'm an Angelino who has a lot of natitude. So...
I guess that's who I am, but I came from Los Angeles where I was a huge Dodgers fan, went to a lot of Dodgers games.
There's nothing like going to Dodger Stadium.
I love Dodger dogs better than anything else in the world. But
and the voice of Vin Scully while you eat it.
Yes, right. But I'm here in Washington, D.C. now. It was not a problem for me. I rooted for the Nets.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes.
It's all about Bryce Harper and Zimmerman and Worth and everybody.
That's
right.
I just
Carl
named
here.
a bunch of people from a sports team.
Aren't you proud of yourself?
Yeah.
Carl here is a friend, of Bill. And Lucia Graves from the National Journal joined us at the half hour. We'll be right into the news of the day. But first,
this is
the big story.
Yes, of course. Let me just get these out of the way. Subway, the sandwich maker, they are getting ready to branch out. Bill, they are testing hummus. They're thinking about serving hummus not only as a side dish as you can order, but also to spread it on the sandwiches. They're trying to keep their whole healthy outlook on things. They're trying to offer healthy options, and hummus is one of the things that they want to do.
Have they thought about maybe getting the sandwich right before they branch out? Because those things smell toxic after an hour.
Have they thought about maybe not putting boiled sandwich meat on
I
the
like
sandwich?
Subway.
Subway is really good if you get it nice and fresh.
Well, you're
if you
supposed to eat it when you go down the line, you make it, and you eat it.
Well, if you
What are
take
doing
5 minutes
leaving
to
it
walk,
around for
if
an
you take
hour?
5 minutes to walk home, the bread starts to ferment. It smells it.
Ferment. No, you can. I agree. You could get a good Subway. You could get a bad Subway.
On hummus, I have to say, I never used to be a hummus fan, but Trader Joe's has an olive, whatever, black olive or something.
Yeah.
Hummus is phenomenal.
There you go.
To me, it's a texture thing. You need something like a cracker or a chip.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't just go in there with a spoon. I go with a cracker or something. Let's do it.
Good for Subway.
You will continue to watch the Olympics on NBC through 2032. They have extended their broadcast rights.
Boy, I'm glad of that. Man,
Yeah,
I was worried about it.
And if you thought things were bad in Sochi, wait until we go to Qatar.
In 2032. How much did it cost them to get those rights? $7.65 billion to lock those rights up, including a $100 million signing bonus.
I'm relieved that I'll be able to watch the Olympics in 2031 now.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
That's
so
it.
That's good. Don't have to worry about
the
that.
Space javelin.
That's right. That's right.
And another Martian won again.
I have some bad news for those of us who live here in Washington, D.C. We have just been ranked as the most stressed out city in the country.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Movado Real Estate blog took a survey of people in different cities, and Washington, D.C. came back number one. Number two is New York, New York. Number three is Miami, Florida.
Stressed out.
Number four is San Francisco, California.
I don't believe this at all. Miami, there's no way that Miami is stressed out. Have you been to Miami?
Yeah, with the rising sea levels now, maybe that's it. They're starting to freak out.
They don't care.
They don't care. They don't care.
Their politicians don't care.
Los Angeles, California, by the way, is on the list at number 10.
Again.
No.
They've never been there.
No, exactly. I lived in L.A. for
Maybe they should ask
years.
the people these questions when they're in
LA is the only place where I routinely got coffee at 2 in the afternoon and didn't feel an ounce of guilt about it.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Carl, interesting story yesterday. The Roberts Court coming out with basically destroying the wall of separation between church and state this week.
Ever so slowly.
Yeah, right. Little by little, chipping away at it. But interesting what the public kind of sees through what John Roberts is up to, huh?
Well, and they don't just see through it, but they also want huge change at the court. And not even talking about the decisions so much as like the practices of the court. So there's this new poll out from Democracy Corps, which is the Stan Greenberg, James Carville polling outfit. Very well respected. And it found that huge, upwards of 2/3 of the American people have a negative opinion of the court under Roberts. A very large percentage, I think in the 70s, believe that the Supreme Court is making its decisions based on politics, and only 30% believe that they're actually basing it on the law and the Constitution.
Yeah, believe they have a political agenda.
Right.
Which is clear.
And this is not by mistake. This is a court that has bent over backwards to support big business. The Chamber of Commerce has ramped up the number of cases that it tries to get to the Supreme Court. And at the same time, the number of cases that the court takes that the Chamber is involved in has increased by a large percentage. And the number of cases that the Chamber wins before the Supreme Court has increased by a large percentage. So it's not surprising that, all of these reforms are supported, between 65% and 85%. Cameras in the court, getting rid of lifetime terms in place, giving them 18-year term limits, better financial disclosures, asking the judges to put their financial disclosures online because you still have to request them in writing, and they may or may not send them to you, and the justices have to sign off on each request. They don't put them online like the president and every member of Congress. Asking for better disclosures about who's paying for their speeches, who's paying for their transportation, etc. Those types of things, putting them under the Code of Judicial Conduct. They are the only federal judges in the country that are not subject to the Code of Judicial Conduct. All of these things are supported by broad swaths of the American people in every party. And they all, one of the things that this poll tested was 2 cases. It asked about Citizens United and McCutcheon. And upwards of 75% of the American people disagreed with both decisions. Even among people who think the court's doing a good job, the very few, they also thought that McCutcheon was a bad decision. So what we're seeing is that, Chief Justice Roberts, if he wants people to look back on his tenure as a steward of the court, he's got a lot of work to do to make up for lost time and make things right.
This is also the court that believes that and preaches that racism is gone in this country right now.
It is, Bill. I'm pretty certain it's gone.
So we don't need voting rights legislation. No. We don't need affirmative action. As John Roberts says, the way to get rid of racial discrimination in this country is not to discriminate based on race. Thank you.
Well, and what's interesting about Roberts on this is we could have seen this coming,
advice.
10 miles ago. This is the type of work that he was doing when he worked for President Reagan. Yeah. And he wants his legacy to be dismantling these accomplishments from the 1960s, the civil rights era accomplishments. And he's very smart about it because he knows that if they just struck down the entire Voting Rights Act, there would have been, people in the streets. But instead what they do is they take it piece by piece, knowing that the conservative legal apparatus out there is going to file another case so that in 2 or 3 terms they pick up another case and take away this piece of the Voting Rights Act. And then they take away that piece of the Voting Rights Act. And before you know it, it's completely gone. But it feels like, it's like boiling a lobster. You put them in the water and they don't know they're being killed.
Little by little. And as you pointed out, that the same thing that they're doing with separation of church and state.
And campaign finance. And none of these things are giant steps. They're all incremental steps away from what the Constitution and the founders wanted.
Right. We are here with Karl Frisch from Bullfight Strategies. It's a Thursday morning here, May 8th, on the Bill Press Show. Your questions, your comments on the Roberts Court. And then a very, very interesting hearing yesterday that kind of... the cigar that exploded in the Republicans' face over Obamacare, not hearing what they expected to hear or wanted to hear from insurance executives. We'll tell you all about that when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, you know, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour with Karl Frisch from Bullfight Strategies here in studio as a friend of Bill. We will be joined at the half hour by Lucia Graves from the National Journal. So, Karl, yesterday Republicans had yet another hearing on Obamacare.
Really?
Maybe more hearings on Obamacare than on Benghazi, but that's a.
If they could only do them at the same time, Bill.
Yeah, I know.
Things happen in Benghazi because of Obamacare.
So they thought, well, here's what we're going to expose Obamacare for the fraud that it is, and we're going to invite 6 insurance executives in, 6 guys head up health insurance companies who are selling plans under Obamacare. And they're going to just help us destroy Obamacare. Didn't quite work out that way, did it?
No. And this is what happens when Republicans base their assumptions on BS in the first place. There was that number that came out back in January that said only 67% of people who signed up for Obamacare had paid their first premium. But rather than making sure that that number was completely accurate and believable, Republicans based what they might get out of this hearing on that number. The problem is that that 67% number was before the deadline for payments for the first month's premium. So lo and behold, they bring all these insurance executives up in front of them, and they find out that 90% of people who have signed up for their health insurance through the exchange have paid their premiums on time.
Right.
90%. And none of them had a complaint.
That's right. Just the same thing as the BS that nobody's going to sign up for this because nobody wants it. Well, we have now more than over 8 million
It
Americans.
is the one bill that I pay every month that I'm happy to pay every month.
Right. Imagine where you would be.
I had my appendix out a couple weeks ago, and if I did not have the insurance I got through the exchange, and once I left Media Matters, I had to get insurance on my own, and I was denied because of pre-existing conditions. So if I did not have insurance through the DC exchange, I would either be dead right now, probably wouldn't be dead, but these are the two options, dead or broke.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I have insurance now, and it covered it, and it did a very good job of covering me.
The insurance executive said, no, that's not right, Congressman. This is not a government takeover of the healthcare industry because
we're making lots of money.
Right. We're making lots of money, and we're doing our thing, and we're selling policies. Number two, they said that actually our stock prices and all of our companies have gone up and up and up and up. They also said premiums next year are not going to jump, as Republicans have claimed. They said that's not
the
true.
Other stuff that they play with the numbers.
Yeah.
You know, they say, well, look at since Obamacare was signed into law, that's where the lie starts.
Mm-hmm.
Since it was signed into law, insurance rates have gone up 5.5%. Well, since it was signed into law, there's a big difference between when something was signed into law and when something started to take place. Anybody who follows healthcare policy will tell you we don't know what to expect necessarily on the cost of healthcare. But to just blatantly lie about it, they should be out there championing this so that it'll work.
Well, so Obamacare is looking better and better, and Republicans were going to run on Obamacare in 2014. I guess maybe they'll have to find something else to run on, like
Benghazi.
You got it. A special committee on Benghazi. Lucia Graves from the National Journal joins us next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Thursday morning, May 8th, 33 minutes after the hour now. Coming to you live all across this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station. Good to have you with us on the radio and worldwide on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Coming to you live from our studio on Capitol Hill and brought to you today by AFSCME, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the country, the good men and women of AFSCME under President Lee Saunders, making America happen. And check out their website at afscme.org, afscme.org. Karl Frisch is here as a friend to Bill this hour from Bullfight Strategies, bullfightstrategies.com. And we're joined now by someone who covers the waterfront here in Los Angeles for the National Journal, staff correspondent Lucia Graves. Hi, Lucia. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
I'll get a little closer to that microphone so we can hear everything you've got to say here this morning.
All right.
I was struck yesterday by this latest controversy. Sometimes things become controversial in Washington, D.C. that should not. Maybe climate change. Well, we'll talk about that later. But a women's museum, I mean, why should that, get people so excited here?
Well, this is Carolyn Maloney's baby. She's been trying to get a National Women's History
Congresswoman
Museum.
from New York.
Congresswoman from New
Long
York.
Island, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been trying to get this built for almost 20 years now, and it's proved incredibly controversial. This year, she's taking sort of a new strategy, and she's tried to get the most conservative member to partner with her on it, and that's Rep. Marsha Blackburn, a Republican from Tennessee, who signed on. And I think Blackburn's the perfect person because, just down the line, they don't agree on anything. They don't agree on abortion. They don't agree on the environment, on gun control. They're on opposite sides of every issue.
Well, then I'm going to tell you what's wrong with this museum. Oh, no, I won't tell you. I'll let Michelle Bachmann tell you what's wrong with this museum.
This museum that will be built on the National Mall on federal land will enshrine the radical feminist movement that stands against the pro-life movement, the pro-family movement.
There it is. That's what's wrong with it.
Federal land. And certainly we should protect federal land from feminists, but not from crazy people, racist ranchers.
Well said. So is this Michelle Bachmann? Is she able to tube this project, or?
I mean, that is one of the fears that conservatives have voiced over the years. Is that this will be an abortion lobbying ground and a stronghold.
They'll have
for
a
them.
statue to Betty Friedan or Gloria Steinem or
the founder of Planned Parenthood
or Mother Jones.
Yeah.
Alice Paul.
That's certainly the fear. And I interviewed Marsha Blackburn this week, and she was, flaunting her conservative bona fides, saying, I don't identify as a feminist at all. She wanted that on the record. And I think that she's won over a lot of people that way. And only 33 people voted against it. It was voted on in the House yesterday.
Oh, and approved?
Approved. So, yeah. Next
Does that mean
the
they put up the money for it or the money for a study, or what's it?
It's so preliminary. At this point, all that they're voting on, it really does. All they're voting on right now is to get a committee enacted to study it for the next 18 months. And after they have some recommendations about funding and who will be on the board of this museum, they're going to come back to Congress, and it'll need another vote in 18 months.
And I'm pretty sure that the African American Civil Rights and History Museum that they're building, which should be open next year, the process started at the very beginning of the second Bush administration. So it takes quite a long time to go from that to actually getting it built. What would be really interesting to me, because, whenever anything goes on the mall, they, whatever president dedicates it gets their name on the side of the monument or building. And so the African American Civil Rights Museum will have President Obama's name on it. And if the same timing were to take effect and Hillary were to become president, Hillary's name would be on the Women's Museum.
Or maybe Elizabeth Warren's.
Or Elizabeth Warren. Or Michelle Bachmann.
There you go. Well, as someone now has lived in Washington longer than I ever thought I would be here, I love the mall. I love to run down the mall. I love to walk down the mall. And I do think the mall is getting a little too crowded. So I just want to put that there. But if you have an American Indian museum, and we're soon going to have an African American museum, which are both appropriate, why shouldn't there be a women's museum on the mall? Or if there's any room left. I don't know where on the mall they'd put it, frankly, but...
Well, that is exactly Maloney's argument, and it's the reason that we need congressional approval is she wants to get it on the National Mall. It's not going to use any federal funding or anything like that. She just wants to have it next to, the African American History Museum.
I think pretty soon they're going to have to have an addition to the mall somehow. I mean,
Build it over the river.
What could go wrong?
Well, and one of the things that they did with the African American Civil Rights Museum is they kind of built it into the side of a slope, so it's not in the way of any of the paths that used to exist. It's there, and there'll probably be a little bit more traffic at that intersection than there used to be, and more foot traffic certainly. Right. But it's not in the way of anything that people used to use before. And perhaps that's the route they would take this time. But I'll tell you what's interesting to me is that in this day and age, we still have arguments around these types of things. And this harkens to me, you look at Princeton University with that young man who wrote the article in defense of white male privilege. A lot of this has to do with that. You can no longer make appeals to straight up racism, and I don't think that you can even call it necessarily racism in a lot of in the traditional sense of the word, but you can rile certain elements of the conservative base up by playing up the male dominance, white dominance of the party. So this kid writes this piece, Michelle Bachmann's on the House floor ranting and raving against those horrible ladies, and this is what in the end is causing the isolation of the Republican Party from the rest of the country. And what eventually will cause its downfall.
Well, the only saving grace here is that Michelle Bachmann will be gone at the end of the year. Right. At least she won't be a voting member of Congress.
Well, and what you're saying is really interesting. I think part of why you're seeing so many Republicans flocking to this museum now is because they know that they need the women's vote, and it's an election year, and they're coming under pressure.
Oh, yeah. After they oppose the violence, extension of the Violence Against Women Act, and all these other things, the last thing they need is to be on record as being opposed to the National Women's Museum.
That's exactly right.
Now, back to the other issue that I don't think should be a political football either, is climate change. So the White House is required by Congress to come out with an annual report on climate. Actually, they haven't met the deadline. This is only the third one. But at any rate, it came out this week. Pretty scary stuff, right? Really that climate change is real. It's happening now in every part of the United States. And immediately, some Republicans in Congress at least, accuse the White House of playing scare tactics. They only came out with this because it's an election year, and they're trying to get votes on the Republican side.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm sure you heard Mitch McConnell talking points saying, this is all politics. It's like, no, this was mandated by Congress in 1990, and they've been doing it since then. There's nothing political about this. I'm sure that, the Obama administration will certainly leverage this report as much as they can to sort of prove why they should take executive action on climate change, as they have been. But, this has been going on since 1990. And
the only reason they're taking executive actions on climate change is because the Congress won't do anything.
Well, and remember, plus the Supreme Court, the conservative-dominated Supreme Court this term, ruled that the EPA has the right to regulate greenhouse gases as it relates to climate change. So
6-2. They ruled that.
6-2.
The Roberts Court.
Right, and this is a court, by the way, that has not been too friendly to the EPA and to government regulation, especially regulation when it comes to agencies making decisions on its, so to speak, on its own. It's positively frightening, but again, it comes back to the idea that anything that a liberal might present is automatically taboo. I feel like we should just blame global warming on President Obama, and then maybe Republicans would come along.
Well, it's in light of New York Times front page article this morning about, so this report talks about one of the problems, of course, one of the manifestations of climate change, rising sea levels. Again, this is not something we're talking about 2032, right, that we have to worry about. It mentions this salesman in South Florida, South Beach. He carries in his car plastic bags and rubber bands because almost every day to visit some of these stores where he's selling stuff, the streets are flooded, from the rising sea levels. And he's got to wear these around his shoes to get in. So we're talking about climate change right now, and it just, what amazes me is, again, that this becomes a political football. And I don't know what it will take. Maybe we'll have to lose Miami before.
Yeah,
people
or
will take it seriously. New
Orleans, which we almost lost already.
There was a move in the crazy North Carolina legislature last year when the state comes out with saying, climate change, a rise in the sea level, we're expecting it to be here by the year in 20 years from now, whatever. The state legislature wanted to legally change the scientific document to protect the real estate industry by moving the water back legislatively.
Oh, well, they could do that, of course.
Right. It doesn't change what's going to happen. It just changes what we think will happen.
Rick Scott probably thinks they could do that in Florida.
Yeah.
Right? But this report mentions, I haven't had a chance to read all of it, but no, it does mention the cities that are the most vulnerable. Miami, of course, is one. New Orleans, you mentioned. Virginia Beach. And we know the New Jersey coast. We saw that with Hurricane Sandy. And Manhattan.
And I think specifics like that are so important because when you read these big reports like, the temperature will rise 1 or 2 degrees, no one really connects with that. But that's why you have the administration doing interviews with people like Al Roker and talking to people about what the effects will be for them personally, locally, in the cities where they are.
There was only one problem with all of those interviews with a meteorologist 2 days ago at the White House. Not one of them asked a question about Benghazi.
Well, frankly, the big problem with meteorologists is that the oil and gas industry has been wooing them for decades, and a lot of them are climate science deniers.
Yeah, but they're coming around, I think. Yeah. So on the Benghazi point, that's my transition. I want to ask you about what happens on that when we come back here on the Bill Press Show with Lucia Graves from the National Journal, nationaljournal.com, and Carl Frisch here from Bullfight Strategies. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, 12 minutes before the top of the hour with Karl Frisch from Bullfight Strategies and Lucia Graves here from the National Journal and all of you. So I've been living in Benghazi land at the White House briefings. It seems it was really funny, Lucia and Karl. Last Thursday, last Friday, once this email came out from Ben Rhodes, right? And which Lindsey Graham called the smoking gun, proved that there was a cover-up because they put out they prepared talking points for Susan Rice before she went on Meet the Press.
Such butch language from confirmed bachelor Lindsey Graham. The smoking gun. It's a friggin' email that proves the exact same thing that we knew before. That we were giving that type of advice to White House folks talking to the press, and it's the same stuff that the intelligence agencies were pushing around at the time.
Yeah. So what was the news here, and why did it? So it dominated Thursday, Friday, and Monday. Every question at the briefing, just about every single one, was all Benghazi.
Yeah, the email that they're talking about was about the talking points that they're saying that the White House was pushing on Susan Rice to go on the Sunday shows and cover up what happened in Benghazi. And that's really not the case. I mean, the talking points dealt with general unrest in the Middle East, and that was happening not just in Benghazi, but also in Cairo and in Tunis. There were other embassies under siege, and so the talking points dealt with that as well as what was going on in Benghazi, and we've known this for the better part of a year. What's changed is the political climate and people's interest in Hillary Clinton. It just seems like very transparently political to me.
And we do know that one of the factors triggering the protest in Cairo was a video.
Right.
Anti-Islam video produced in the United States, which is why the connection to the U.S. Embassy. Right? I mean, it wasn't a U.S. government video, but I think it was produced in California.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's why the talking points deal with that video, is because it was implicated in protests in Cairo and in other places in the Middle East.
But now here's what I found stunning. So Tuesday morning, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, nothing but Benghazi. Tuesday, the entire briefing, there was not one question about Benghazi, which I found very refreshing, but I also think it indicated to me that maybe the mainstream media has caught up, that maybe Fox News, they ought not to be following the lead of Fox News in what they're talking or questioning.
I wish that was true, Bill, but the reason that it consumed the press briefings for those many days in the first place is because a lot of the times the mainstream press feels like they've been worked by the refs. So they will bend over backwards to give credence to a right-wing story. So they're for the sake of not being accused of having liberal bias, when they will always be accused of having liberal bias, no matter what they say, what they do, what they report. It has been part of the conservative tactics going back, nearly 60 years. It's just what they do. From the grassroots to the presidential candidates, blame the press is always the option. And it doesn't matter that there's no there.
Shades of Spiro Agnew.
And I do think that pundits were being made fun of for focusing on all the smoke and mirrors, and they were responding to that.
No, I think you're right. I think they were, and also then, now the latest, we have a select committee on Benghazi, which John Boehner assures us is not going to be a circus, is not going to be a sideshow, and will be above politics.
So it'll be 50-50?
Yeah, right.
I mean, to me, it's so transparently a sideshow. They're going to be trying to do the same thing they did around Solyndra, which is, beat the drums and build up as much noise as they can around this and drag it out so that, that's the narrative surrounding Hillary Clinton. When anyone talks about her, they'll talk about Benghazi in the same breath.
Of course.
That's the
If
hope.
there were any doubt about whether or not this is going to be a sideshow, whether it is politically motivated, the National Republican Congressional Campaign Committee yesterday put out a fundraising email to all of its supporters, inviting them to become Benghazi watchdogs. And you become I've seen it, I've saw it on the television this morning. You become a Benghazi watchdog. How? By sending a check to the NRCC. So they're using it to raise money.
Right, they're raising money off of dead people.
Are you surprised, Bill? I'm not. At this point, for people that have forgotten what the 90s were like, it was all about taking anything they could find and then creating a giant thing out of it to attack the Clintons. The Rose Law Firm. What was the real estate deal?
Watergate. No, Whitewater.
The Whitewater land deal that consumed 8 years of the Clinton White House before 3 reports came out and said there was nothing there at all.
Right.
I think this is just the beginning of it again.
All I got to say, if you're sick of Benghazi, get used to it, because we're going to hear about nothing but that, I think, for the next 2 years. Lucia Graves, nice to come in. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. Come back again. And Karl, always good to have you
Thanks,
here.
Bill.
Thank you. Glad you're healthy. Got
Thanks.
that Obamacare taking care of you. I'll be back with today's parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, who does he think he's kidding? When he announced the appointment of a special committee on Benghazi, Speaker John Boehner promised it was not going to be a circus, not going to be a sideshow. It was going to be a serious investigation above politics. And Trey Gowdy, the man Boehner named to chair the committee, promised that he would never raise money on the bodies of 4 Americans. Well, that didn't last long. The very same day, the National Republican Congressional Campaign Committee sent out a fundraising letter inviting Republican donors to become a Benghazi watchdog by sending a contribution, of course, to the NRCC. Yeah, who does Boehner think he's kidding? For the last 18 months, Benghazi's been nothing but a political football for Republicans eager to exploit a national tragedy for cheap political gains. And why should they stop now? Midterm elections are just 7 months away. Yeah, get used to it. That's my parting shot for today, folks. Thanks for being with us this Thursday. Have a good one. Come back and see us again tomorrow morning. We'll be looking for you.
This
See you then.
is the Bill Press Show.